You're listening to Change Your POV Podcast, episode 158.
Been together for 6 years, been out of school for 4 years, so I've been making somewhat steady progress on my debts, but I had to slow down at different points along the way. So at this point, my debt that was a little over $100,000 is now down to like $62,000. All right, still a good chunk. The average student loan debt, I think, is in the mid-30s, so still roughly double that.
Change Your POV is dedicated to helping veterans become as successful out of uniform as we were when we were in. We often measure success by the amount of money we have in the bank, or lack thereof. We all know we didn't get rich in the military. And then we get out, and the whole money thing doesn't get any easier, does it? If that isn't hard enough, then we throw in a significant other or a relationship into the mix, and there you have a perfect storm. Our next guest shares with us how he was able to pay off student loans, get married, and get a handle on this whole money and relationship thing. Let's check it out. Hello, folks. This is Eddie Lazary.
I'm Bennett.
No, let's do it again.
You're dick.
Take three.
Hello, folks. Hello, folks. Welcome to Change Your POV Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Lazary.
And I'm Bennett.
And today we are on the phone with none other than James MacLean. He is a member of a mastermind group that I was a part of, and we've gotten over the year, I would say over the, not years, but the year that we've been doing this mastermind group together, we've gotten to know each other pretty well. He is a veteran himself, officer, right, James?
Yep.
Oh my God, Lieutenant?
Yeah, don't give me too much crap about that. Yeah, first lieutenant when I was retired. Oh, do not start that crap.
So I found his awesome picture, and I put it on the Facebook page a couple of days ago. It's this guy that's like completely tangled in like concertina wire, like completely.
Yeah, let me guess. There's a lieutenant joke.
And the caption says, "Hey, I found the lieutenant."
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we will go lightly on you, LT.
Yeah. Of course. There's a few bad ones out there that give the rest of us a bad
Oh
name.
man, is there? I can go on for days about that, but we won't.
I'm sure you could.
And he says, "Oh, is there?"
Oh, geez. All right. So we are in the month of, well, this is coming out on March 3rd, but it's still considered in the month that we're focusing on relationships. And I had to bring you on because you've got a blog, and I'll let you talk about it, but it specializes in what you talk about in your blog. It talks about finances as it relates to relationships. So before we get into that, let's backpedal here a little bit. Tell us a little bit about you, kind of where you're from, what you're up to, a little bit of your military experience, and please throw in a couple of good lieutenant stories. I would appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I could do that. So let me get this right off the bat. I am a medically retired Army Medical Service Corps officer. So yeah, I was a first lieutenant when I got out. Not exactly how I drew things up. But let's back up a little bit. I got my commission from Boston University ROTC. This will become relevant in a second. Even with my scholarship, I had a 3-year scholarship there, I still had student loans to pay for my first year's tuition, all 4 years of my housing, and a study abroad program. So brand new second lieutenant coming out with about $100,000 worth of student loan debt. That'll become relevant in a minute. Anyway, got my commission, went down to Fort Benning for a few months. Then after that, went down to Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio for Med Service OBC. And then went from there to Fort Rucker, Alabama, lovely Mother Rucker, where I was going to live out a lifelong dream of mine to become a military aviator. That was my dream job. Thought being a medevac pilot would be awesome, flying around saving lives. Literally the exact job description of Superman. It sounded really cool to me.
Right.
Little dust off action.
Exactly. But anyway, I was going through SEER school. It was the last rotation of the year. And I'm on the final evasion, the final exercise, freezing my balls off, and my left arm stops working. Just completely losing. I lost all motor function in my left arm, and I had no idea what was going on. So I didn't want to start the course over, so I sucked it up, finished the course, and then got out, went to the doctors. They couldn't tell me what was going on. The flight surgeons couldn't tell me what was going on. They found a specialist, took a look at me, said, I think I know what this is. Ran a couple tests, and then diagnosed me with what's called hereditary neuropathy with liability to pressure palsy.
Jesus, bless you.
Yeah, basically, the best way I could put it is it's like Lou Gehrig's disease that's not going to kill me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So kind of unfortunately, a big deal in the first case of it the Army had ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah. So a little bit of
trails.
Yeah, I know, right?
So are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Oh, so your social life is fine then at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, good.
So yeah, I was the first case of that the Army had seen. They really didn't know what to do with me, so they pulled me out of training. Around the same time, there was a major who failed a drug test who was working as a brigade intelligence officer. So guess who got to take over a brigade staff position?
Nice.
I did. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So I was holding down the Brigade S2 shop while the doctors were trying to figure out what to do with me, trying to come up with what policy, because again, I was going to be setting the precedent for this particular disease state. And long story short, they decided it was best if I would no longer serve in uniform, and they decided to med board me out.
That sucks.
Yeah, not exactly how I pictured it going, but hey, got to do the best with what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was back in like 2008 to 2010, that whole stretch. And I remember right before going to SEER school, my friends and I, my roommates and I, other med-service guys down at flight school, we were watching the day the stock market collapsed, thinking, oh, we'll be fine. The rest of the world could go crazy. The crazier the world gets, the more secure employment in the military is. So we were thinking we were fine, and now suddenly here I am going, oh, shoot, the world's going kind of crazy. Job markets are in the tank. Stock market's in the tank, and now I'm about to be a part of it. And remember those student loans I was talking about a minute ago?
Yeah.
Now they suddenly were not looking so hot. I still had to come up with $1,000 a month easy just for the minimum payments, and I was soon to be without an income.
Yeah, so guys getting out of the military that know their ETS date and they actually get out on their ETS date, they struggle when they get out of the military. Now you got somebody like you that didn't plan on getting out when you did, and here you are facing getting out. And did you have a plan? Like, did you scramble? Like, what were you doing?
So once the realization set in for me that it's like, okay, this is starting to go sideways on me. I started to get the sense from the doctors I was talking to that they were not going to be ruling in what I thought at the time would be my favor. I started to get serious about it. And I remember laying awake and going, oh, crap, I got this. I got to come up with $1,000 a month. I don't know how long I'm going to have a salary. I don't know what kind of job market I'm going to be entering. So let me just do some basic math. And, it was really crude. I just said, all right, this is how much money I make in a month. This is how much my rent is. This is about how much I spend on gas. This is about how much I spend on food. Here's what, my minimum payments and my student loans are, what's left. And I actually had a little bit of money left over, more than I thought. It was amazing. As soon as I wrote it down, I was like, shoot, I actually have some cash here. So not knowing
this is from your medical retirement, right?
Prior to this is still me on active duty.
Okay,
before I was officially rolled out, before they realized, decided what they were going to do with me, before I had a rating or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So I realized I had a little bit of money left over each month. I was sharing a house in rural Alabama with 3 or 4 other guys, so that wasn't costing much. So I just stashed that money aside every month, not knowing how long I'd be able to do that. And I just tried to build that up as an emergency fund because, hey, I knew I had an emergency headed my way. Right. So turns out they rated me high enough to give me retirement. Not exactly what I was hoping for, but hey, I'll take it. And then my plan was to, as I was getting ready to transition out, they were like, oh, hey, by the way, we got this post 9/11 GI Bill you'd qualify for. Why don't you do that? Why don't you look into that? So I was like, all right, well, maybe that's the answer to my situation here. I could go back to school, get a living stipend, ride out the terrible job market. And then, a few years later, hopefully things are better in the economy and I'd just be that much more prepared to enter the workforce. So that was the plan. Sounded good to me. Got accepted into a joint law and MBA program back in Boston. And 2 weeks before classes were to start, I got a letter from the VA saying, whoops, we're not funding you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Everything was packed. Everything was in motion.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. So I get them on the phone. I'm like, hey, guys, what gives? I'm moving. This kind of sucks. They're like, yeah.
Like, hey, LT, you forgot the Vaseline.
Yeah, we're not quite done yet. So, everyone I spoke to, at least the people at the VA I dealt with, were like, oh, shoot, whoops. They were actually pretty sympathetic. And they were like, okay, here's what's going on. You fall into this weird bureaucratic black hole we didn't really think of when we put this program together. We're working on it, but it's literally going to take an act of Congress to fix. So I was like, I've got 2 weeks before classes start. I don't think you're getting this done in 2 weeks. So time for plan B.
Burger King?
Not quite.
Okay.
It didn't quite come to that. Almost, but not quite.
They do it your way.
That they do. I decided, all right, well, I can't count on the VA. I'm not counting on any of those outside programs to get me through the rest of this transition. So what gives? I still had, high 5 figures worth of student loan debt. And I was like, I really don't want to take on any more of that. That stuff sucks. It's really been, a drain. It's my, second largest expense at this point. And, I was just thinking, hey, if I didn't have this, how much longer would my savings last? How much longer would I have to figure this out? So I definitely knew I didn't want to add any more debt. And being this late in the game, 2 weeks before classes were supposed to start at grad school, there was like no scholarship money left whatsoever. So I'd be looking at like $40,000+ for the year, and then hoping the next year I'd be able to get some cash. I was not interested in that. So I decided, you know what? There might not be a ton of jobs out there, but I'm going to go get one. The cream always rises to the top. I'm going to go learn how to interview, going to optimize my resume, going to get great at all that stuff, knock the socks off people, and land myself a job. And a few months later, I had some good interviews, some really bad interviews, but I started to figure out what I was doing. And in 1 week, I got 3 offers, each one about double the salary of the one before it. So I ended up taking the best offer. Again, it was about twice what the previous offer was, and it was with a Fortune 500 company, huge company, running their Boston operation. I had 34 direct reports with about $15 million in revenue annually to manage.
Wow, man. Good job.
Yeah.
So I got to ask,
Sure.
when you're preparing to knock the socks off of everyone and get in the know, get up to speed on on a resume and interviewing, what resources, if any, did you utilize to do that?
2 books come to mind immediately. 48 Days to the Work You Love by Dan Miller. That was helpful.
Really good book.
Yeah. And then another one, I'm blanking on the author's name right now, but let me Google it real quick. It was called The Elements of Resume Style. I think I picked it up for like $4 on Amazon or something like that.
The Elements of the Resume Style?
Of Resume Style,
okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Sorry. Scott Bennett.
Okay.
By Scott Bennett. Yeah, so those 2 books really helped me figure out how to position myself in the job market, really how to craft a resume that would get the attention of the right people, and how not to waste my time. That was a big thing too. Don't get caught up on things that don't work. Here are the few things that do work. Go do these.
Right. Yep.
Right. And so I had a few interviews for jobs that I didn't really love the prospect of, but hey, I was willing to, interview with anybody. Anyone who wanted to talk to me, I was willing to talk to, and I got better and better and better at interviewing. And it culminated in that week where I had 3 offers come through all at the same time, each one better than the one before.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what we call blanketing the market. When you're looking for a job, it's important because a lot of veterans do it wrong. A lot of veterans will find the one job that they might be interested in, and they apply to it, and then they sit and they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait. Weeks, months go by, and they may or may not get a call back, and then they're like, oh, well, shit, I guess I should probably try a different job. So then they apply to a different job, and they wait and they wait. Next thing you know, they're in this job market hunting position for 2-3 years, and they're like
forever.
And they're pissed off because they can't find the job. It's like no, you gotta like shoot big, man. You gotta find like 20 companies that you could work for, apply to all of them, network with all of them, go to like 10 interview, do 20 phone interviews, 10 in-person interviews, 5 second in-person interviews, get 3 offers and pick one. I mean, it's kind of that's kind of how it works, right?
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I did. And so from the time that I realized that I wasn't going to be starting grad school to the time I had an offer in hand was about 3 months. So I was hearing stories of guys being out of work a year, 2 years. I knew some of them. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be me. I don't have the luxury of doing that. Even, even as a quote unquote retired guy, I had a little bit coming in, but it wasn't nearly enough. Not even enough to cover my student loan payments. So certainly not enough to pay the rest of the bills on. So that kind of lit a little fire under my butt too. But yeah, if there was something I thought I could do, hey, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah. And
even if it's temporary, I'm willing to go do that.
And I really like your recommendation of going to these interviews, even if it's for jobs you're not exactly crazy about, just getting times at bat.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Sitting down across the table from somebody, it gives you a sense of different interview styles, different interview types, and it really helps you understand. I mean, the one thing that a lot of people get frustrated about, and this isn't inclusive to veterans, it's anyone out there, it's this: you don't get feedback on your interview, and don't take that to heart, people. It's not because you're a veteran, and nobody gets feedback on their interview. You could walk out of an interview and feel like you completely knocked it out of the park and never get any feedback and never even get a call back and wonder what the hell happened. But that happened to me. Yeah.
And what's funny though is, why would you?
Right. Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
think that's what I try to explain to guys.
I think it's because in the military, we get so used to real-time feedback, right?
Mm-hmm.
You screw up, you make a mistake, somebody's in your shit right then and there, and they let you know it, right? It's this lack of feedback that veterans go through, and they can't understand why.
Well, I can tell you that this is a skill that we need to figure out a way to help people understand, is to not get butthurt about not hearing from the people that, you know what I mean?
Right.
That interview. I mean, especially over the past few years, I've done a shit ton of interviews, mainly with the VA or other places as well. But you have to go into this. This is something that needs to be said, is you have to go into this not expecting to get feedback from anyone. If you want feedback, call somebody like me, call somebody like you, or get a buddy to mock interview you. That's the only way that you're going to get feedback. And that's something that I've thought about over the past year. That's really something that's people always complain about, but yet nothing's ever done about it. So
yeah, well, that's
putting that out there.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things that I teach when I do workshops at local universities with student veterans. There's a section in there where I actually do mock interviews, and it's a way for me and the interviewee to actually go back and forth, and all of the other class members to observe and to listen. But then at the end, I give honest, candid feedback. And it turns out, after I do the survey of the students of the 2-day workshop, when I asked what was the greatest takeaway of the 2-day workshop, hands down, resounding feedback that I got was the piece of the mock interview they found the most value in, because it was the first time that any of them have ever really had the opportunity to hear actual feedback from a hiring interview or a hiring manager in an interview. So that's one of the services that I actually provide, is doing mock interviews. So if you want to know more about that, just hit me up and we can discuss that, but not to completely off rail James here. I'm really interested in, because I know you and work with you in Mastermind Group, but I know that you not only got a handle on your student loans, but you were able to actually make some pretty sizable dents and even get them, settled relatively quickly. How did you do this?
Well, I got to back up a little bit.
Okay.
So, I mean, I know what you're referring to, and we'll definitely get there.
Okay.
But there's a little bit more to the story. So now let's see. I start the job in the late 2010. I've been with my girlfriend at the time, for going on 5 years at this point. Yeah, 4 years. So she was finishing up her doctorate in Boston. That's what brought me back to the Northeast. And we wanted to be near each other. Didn't work out the way we were planning. We figured she'd be moving to wherever I was getting stationed. Turns out I came back. So anyway, I'm at the company for a year, paid down some more of my debts. It's like, okay, now we've been together for 5 years. Things are kind of calming down. She's been with me through all this craziness. It's time. It's time to move it forward. She was starting to sing some Beyonce songs to me, dropping hints here and
put a ring on it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I slowed down how aggressively I was paying down my debts and decided, whatever extra money I've got left over at the end of the month, just like I did when I was getting ready to get out of the military, not knowing exactly what the target was, but whatever I've got left over at the end of the month, I'm going to start saving that for an engagement ring. Did that, bought that, proposed to her. Thankfully, she said yes.
It's called a cubic zirconia.
Well, I actually called it something else. I called it prepaid forgiveness.
Love it.
Yeah, very nice. I like it.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got engaged, kept doing the same thing for a year, saving whatever money I had left over at the end of the month. She was doing the same thing on her side. And we used that to pay for our wedding in cash and our honeymoon in cash. And that's what really set us up well to, join forces once we were married, move in together, get our own, new place for the two of us, and try and set our lives up properly going into marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, now we're 6 years, been together for 6 years, been out of school for 4 years. So I've been making somewhat steady progress on my debts, but, had to slow down at different points along the way. So at this point, my debt that was a little over $100,000 is now down to like $62,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right, still a good chunk. The average student loan debt, I think, is in the mid 30s. So still roughly double that. And we got to work. We just lined them up, smallest to largest, and said, okay, whatever's left over at the end of the month, after we've paid the rent, after we've paid for groceries, after we've paid the minimums and everything else, whatever's left, we're going to throw it at the little one. And then once that little debt's gone, we're going to take that money that's left over and throw it at the next smallest one, and so on and so forth.
That snowball action.
Exactly. Right. That's exactly what it's called. And if your readers want to know more about that, you could just Google debt snowball, or I'll put links to all the guides I've put together on walking people through this at my website, lovemoneymatters.com/changeyourpov. I'll have a nice little page for you guys there.
Nice.
Where I'll walk you through this exact thing. But that's what we did. And so we managed to pay off $62,000 worth of debt, plus or minus a few cents here and there, in 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you yell like William Wallace?
Freedom!
It was a great feeling. I got to be honest. It was an awesome feeling. I remember, hitting submit on the last Sally Mae payment going, wait, I don't need to do this next month.
Ah, man, that's cool.
That is weird. So awesome.
It was really so cool. Yeah, and to see every month the amount owed shrink and shrink and shrink. And then just that last time hit submit. And I was like, wait a second, I don't have to do that again.
So what'd you do with all the money the next month?
Bought a bigger ring?
No, we haven't done that yet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention that, because once the debt was gone, we didn't really know what to do. It was like, all right, well, that was cool. We kind of knew coming into marriage that we wanted to get rid of the debt, and it wasn't always a smooth road to get there. Believe me, I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but we actually ended up having an accidental money talk on the honeymoon.
No.
Yeah. This was not a good moment. So here's what happened. So we're at our wedding, and it was a beautiful wedding. Lots of friends and family came out to see us. It was a great day. Had a great time. And then as we're leaving, my groomsmen, they're packing up all the stuff, and they hand me all the cards that people gave us. So I'm like, oh, cool. We'll bring these. Maybe we'll read these on the honeymoon or whatever. And I just throw them in my bag. And so we're a few days into the honeymoon. It's like, hey, let's read through all the cards people gave us. So we do that. And they're writing us beautiful things and great advice and wishing us well. But also, as people do, there's cash in there, and then there's checks in there. And, we're not trying to count all this stuff up, but, it's just, we start to notice, wow, we've got some generous friends and family here. And me knowing that, hey, we've still got $60-something thousand worth of debt. It's like, okay, this could help us get rid of that debt really freaking fast.
Mm-hmm.
Our friends are being awesome. We've got some money left over from the wedding, since we paid cash for everything. We still had some cash left over. We didn't spend it all. B, now we've got people giving us gifts, and they're really generous. So, hey, any friends and family are at our wedding, thank you again. And so I'm looking at this going, wow, we could take a big chunk. We could use this to take a big chunk out of the debt and be done with it really, really fast. Well, my brand new wife had a different feeling when she saw the money, right? Me, I was looking at the money going, this is freedom, right? It's that William Wallace thing, freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she was looking at the money going, that's security. That's never wondering where rent payment's going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
That's never wondering where grocery money's going to come from. That's never worrying about losing a job. And so we didn't mean to have a money talk, but it kind of happened as we both realized that money meant very different things to us early on.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to get through that before we could actually start plugging away at the debt. And so
number one cause of divorce.
Yep.
Money. Yeah.
Money.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what's funny about that, right? If you're going to say money is the reason for divorce, are you saying that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4? Is that what you're arguing about? Is that what you're fighting about?
No, I'm saying people say that's the number one thing for divorce, but what it is, it's the miscommunication.
Well, exactly.
About money.
Exactly. No one's going to argue that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, and people aren't going to break up over what bank do we use, what ATM do we go to? No, it's because money means different things to different people. Really, all money is, and this is what I found fascinating as my wife and I started plugging through our finances and building our life together. All money is putting a number to what's important to us. Mm. It's just quantifying our lives. That's it. So when people say that, we broke up because we were having money fights. No, you weren't fighting about money. You were fighting about the kind of life you wanted together.
Right.
You were fighting about priorities that you guys didn't talk about.
So do you think this should have been a conversation you had before you got married, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of was, we both understood, conceptually what should happen. It was like, okay, we should avoid debt. We should pay off what debt we have. We should save money. We should do all these things. But when it came time to actually do it, we ran into that whole thing of, well, money means different things to us, right? We knew what to do, and we kind of knew how, but first we had to agree on, all right, why do we want to do this? Mm-hmm. Right? Why is this important to us? Why should we pay off the debt? Why should we build an emergency fund, right? And the more we have, go ahead.
And I bring that up only because, a lot of people listening to this might be thinking to themselves, well, damn, I didn't have a conversation with my wife about that before we got married. So I guess that ship has sailed for us. When in reality, I would like to say, no matter how long you've been married, whether it's 2 days or 20 years, having these types of conversations is good to have on a regular basis, because over time, what you're talking about, James, is the difference in what the value in that money means to you. But guess what? That value and what that money means to you can change for you over time as well.
Oh, absolutely. And so I started to answer this question, but I want to back up and give a little context. You asked what we were going to do once all that debt was gone. Mm-hmm. Well, we realized that, we don't need to make those debt payments anymore. What are we going to do? Mm. And that was really our first time to really go, okay, what's important to us? And so we decided to take a little bit of that money, and we were going to go on a crazy first anniversary trip. Whatever amount of money we were throwing at the debt each month, it was a lot, let's be honest. We were going to take that much and go on a crazy vacation. So we did that for our first anniversary. But before we did that, before we even got to that point, we decided, all right, we need to get away. We need to talk this through so we could build this agreement in our marriage. Mm-hmm. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? Why do we want to do it? So we could build a life that respected each other's dreams, that valued each other's dreams, and that honored each other's dreams.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So I really got to agree with you there. It's never too late. Growing up, I actually got dragged through 3 divorces. My parents weren't great at marriage, and at the heart of it, the divorces were all different for different reasons, but it played out in money fights in every single one of them, right? And so I just want to implore your listeners, just as you did, it's never too late. It's never too late to start the conversation.
Well, this is one of those things, considering that the majority of our listeners are veterans or military folks.
Right.
The number one cause of divorce, they say, is because of money, right? Mm-hmm. And the divorce rate in the military right now is somewhere in the 75 to 78% range.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so, and you always hear those horror stories. she was spending money while I was on deployment or whatever. So it's one of those things that really should resonate with our audience, is to heed this advice and don't make it one of those unspokeable things in your house. Or unspeakable, spokeable, Jesus. One of those unspeakable things in your house. Talk about money. So many families in America do not. It's like taboo. But that's such a mistake.
Well, and that's the thing too, is, I mean, we could bring on any number of guests and talk about money. We can bring on any number of guests and talk about relationships. But how often do we bring on a guest that can talk about money and how it relates to relationships and vice versa, which is exactly what James has created here with Love and Money Matters. So is that, I mean, so how did that all, if I'm jumping ahead, then please backpedal, but so how did that come to be, the Love and Money Matters blog, in terms of what you're doing now?
Well, again, I grew up seeing marriages dissolve in front of me. You know, that was a unique perspective to see a few marriages fall apart from the inside. It wasn't fun. It wasn't, it was informative. And for a while, you know, seeing that, I wasn't ever sure I'd want to be married, or it's like, man, if this is what happens, why would anyone want to do this? But then as I got older, I was like, all right, well, I also don't want to go through life alone. You know, I don't want to be a total loner, or I also don't want to have a whole bunch of just shallow relationships. So, you know, maybe there's something to this. Maybe it could work, you know, but it would take thinking about it differently than what I'd seen. It would take a different approach than what I had seen growing up.
Right.
Sorry, just lost my train of thought.
It happens to every guest. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of editing, right?
Yep. Those go in the blooper reel, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right. Well, hopefully I don't make it too big of a thing. So, but anyway, so I had seen 3 marriages fall apart growing up, and later in life realized, all right, well, maybe I do want to try marriage. Maybe I do want a deep, intimate relationship with somebody. I don't want to be a loner. I also don't want, just shallow, hollow relationships, which basically be the same thing, still not having deep connections with people. So I got to figure this out. And so it was really me just asking people, if you've been married longer than 5 minutes, I want to know what you're doing to make it work. I want to hear about it. I want to know about it. And I wasn't asking people about money, because at this point I had started to think that money was just a reflection of values. Money was just a reflection of priorities and other things that good couples would have reached agreement on.
Right.
And so as I started having these conversations with other people, and with people who had been married for decades, and also combined with the small financial victories, paying off all of our debt, effectively emergency proofing our lives, right? All these things that Andrea, my wife, and I had pulled off financially, started to go, okay, there's some common ground here, right? As you said before, there's people who talk about relationships, and then there's people who talk about money, but there's really not somebody talking about both, trying to come up with practical finance,
right,
for families.
Yep.
Right. You
Absolutely.
Get the people who talk, oh, this is the mutual fund you ought to be in, or this is the savings account you should be in, or you get the people, oh, this is exactly the type of gift you should give your spouse or your partner. But it's like, well, wait a second, that's all nice and fluffy, but let's talk about this hard topic. Let's talk about finance as it relates to a relationship, as it relates to this person that you've committed to spending time with, your life with, right? How do you balance all the values, sometimes conflicting priorities that your finances will reflect, either by honoring those values and priorities or dishonoring them.
So working with people through your blog, what's the common threads or their commonalities of issues that people find with relationships as it relates to money, or vice versa?
People don't want to talk about it, right? It's a tough thing to talk about. It's an awkward thing to talk about. It's something where if you feel like most people who don't like to talk about money, it's because they feel like they should know better. Right. And so for me, I I had $100,000+ of debt as a 22-year-old kid. That's freaking dumb. And it's crazy. And I kind of had this weird feeling about it when I was 18, getting ready to go to college. And people are like, it's normal. And yeah, it's normal, but it's dumb. Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's okay. And so people have this hesitation to talk about money because it's one of those things we really, quote unquote, should have figured out by now, but no one really has. So we all just kind of ignore it. And, we're all happy to think, oh, well, we're all in the same boat, so let's just not talk about it.
Well,
but it's not the case.
I think a lot of it, too, is, where does anyone get educated about money? Let's be honest. I didn't learn about money I think I might have did a home ec class or something in high school where they showed us how to balance a checkbook. But I don't ever remember sitting in any class talking about finances. I don't remember.
It's rare.
Yeah, I don't remember
it's super rare.
Any class in the military where I talked about I've got a master's degree in business administration. I've never attended through all of my years of college, undergrad and graduate level. Don't ever remember sitting down and talking about personal finances. I talked about, budgets and balance sheets and things like that as it relates to companies,
absolutely.
Right? So where do people get educated when it comes to finances?
There are some rare instances where some schools will teach this stuff, but it's usually because some third party has paid for it. Right. Some community leader has said, this is important, so I'm going to pay for the curriculum. Or some colleges will offer it, but frankly, the classes don't stick around very long because people don't sign up for the class.
Right. Because they don't see the value in it, or what?
Exactly. Yeah. People don't realize how important it is until they've made some mistakes. And so that's where a lot of this hesitation to talk about it comes from, I think, because people feel like they should have figured it out before and they're ashamed to admit it. I know for me, it was a great sense of shame that I was coming into a relationship with a negative net worth. Yeah, I felt terrible about that.
I got out of the Army after 10 years and entered my first corporate job. And the first time I ever heard of this weird thing called 401k, right? So I'm 30 something years old. I ended up working and becoming a supervisor at a defense contracting company, and I had no idea what a 401k was, or how to use it, or how to not use it. Or it's one of those things. You get out of the military, especially a lot of guys, you would think, right? And it's been my experience. I talked to guys that have done 22, 23, 25 years. They're lieutenant colonels, sergeant majors in the Army. I'm thinking, oh man, these guys got their shit together. I realize after talking to these guys that they don't have a clue any more than anyone else about things that relate to, life outside of the military, because we are so taken care of and so sheltered while we're in. Literally, everything's taken care of for you. That when you get out, you incur your own debt and you make your own mistakes, and your lack of knowledge is your own. And you do, you know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, there's no one else to blame but yourself, and people feel embarrassed and ashamed. And you know what I mean? It's like, what do you do?
Well, what I did is I started the website because I wanted to stand in the gap and say, hey guys, it's okay. I've made this mistake. And I'm very honest with my own screw ups and things I've messed up financially or relationally on there, because I want to go first. I want to take that excuse away of saying, well, you should know better. Well, yeah, I should have. And I'm admitting that to you. Right. So I want to try and bridge that gap between this is something no one talks about because no one wants to. And now here you go. Here's everything you need to have a conversation about money with your partner. Here's step by step exactly how to set up a system that'll help you emergency proof your life. How great would it be if you didn't have to worry about if your car is going to break down next month, right? How great would it be if, oh shoot, am I going to get laid off before the holidays? Well, what if you didn't have to worry about that?
Right.
I've given my audience everything I've got as to how to attack debt in the fastest way possible, the exact tactics and tools my wife and I used to pay off $62,000 worth of debt in 7 months. And it's not like we're making millions of dollars ourselves, right? I try to bridge that gap between that high finance, the budget sheets and financial statements that you learned about in college, and I did too, and the practical stuff. What do we do when it's just me, right? Or when it's just my family and we get a paycheck? what happens? And then how do we talk about that?
That's pretty cool. So how much does this cost to the listeners out there that are that's interested in figuring out how to do this, and then what you're telling them sounds like it might be right for them?
Well, if you want to go to loveandmoneymatters.com/changeyourpov, I will give all of this to you for free.
Holy shit, for free? How?
Yeah,
like
just an email address.
Okay.
That's all. I will give you a five-step program, how to talk about money without fighting, right? I'll give that to you for free. I will give you my guide on how to attack debt the same way Andrea and I did. That helped us pay off $62,000 worth of debt in 7 months for free. And if you want the emergency fund guide, it's quite similar. Same principles, just you're directing your extra money each month to a different place. I'll throw that in too.
Wow. Holy shit, man.
I want to give everyone everything they need to take control of their personal finances and to avoid A, the financial mistakes I made, and also B, to avoid the relational pain I experienced growing up and also have been trying to avoid myself now that I'm married.
Mm-hmm.
You're the man.
That's awesome. I've checked out some of your stuff already, James. I don't know if Bennett has had the opportunity to, but I cannot personally think of any veterans that come to mind right now. I can't think of a single one that wouldn't benefit from this package that you're offering for free. How about you, Bennett?
I'm totally good to go. I don't need your bullshit.
Yeah.
No, I do. I totally do. And I can't think of very many guys that wouldn't. So yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a little bit of a disciple of Dave Ramsey myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's been a big influence on me too.
And we've done some really good stuff with our debt. We just bought a house, blah, 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 the whole thing. And paid off a ton of debt to be able to do that. So I know a lot of the principles, but it's always good, no matter what, to see another person's take and see their journey, because you just learn so much from watching other people go down that path too. So
absolutely. And it is not anecdotal stuff. It's not, you should do this because I said so. James,
it's real world shit.
Yeah. You're taking it from, you're like, I did it and here's how, which is completely different than the whole do what I say, not what I do kind of thing. You know
Absolutely.
What I mean?
It's like, I love the financial advisors that they get out there and they wheal and deal with your money.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They're freaking driving whatever with a huge giant house. And yet they've got, $2 million in debt.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And they're the ones wheeling and dealing with your money. Yeah. I love people that talk about finance and try to teach people finance that are fucking broke.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Well, look, the simple stuff works, right? You keep it simple. You guys did the WellFit challenge a few months ago, right? And it was just, let's focus on one thing at a time. Or I remember you guys, when you're first kicking off, it's why do I want to do this? Mm-hmm. And Bennett, you burned a shirt, right? And you guys wrote eulogies to yourselves because you were thinking if you didn't change something, you might not be around. Well, a lot of the same principles apply, right? If you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to pay off debt, a lot of the same principles apply.
So basically you're telling me I can burn another shirt.
If you want to.
I want boxers, man.
Yeah. If this is going down with like propane tanks and like road flares, man.
Hell yes. That's awesome.
That'd be fun.
Well, man. So, James, we've run out of time. Where can people, I've got the Love and Money Matters and all of the links, folks, that we talked about will be in there. But where could people connect with you, James, and find out more about you and what you've got going on?
Just hit up the website. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Enter your email address and you'll hear from me. You want to hear from me. And if you need to get a hold of me, just reply back. I'll email you as soon as you sign up.
That's awesome. And anyone that does this and goes through any one of these kits or programs that he's offering for free and you see success in it, no reason why you wouldn't if you follow the steps. I would love to hear from you, and I know James would as well. I would even bring you on the show and tell us your story about how you applied this in your life and what kind of success you were able to see, not just you, but you and your family. Because it really is, when you're talking about money, unless you live by yourself, like money affects everybody in the family, whether it's just you or your wife, or you, your wife and kids, or whatever the family makeup is. Money is a big thing. It's never going to go away. And you might as well tackle it head on and figure out how to manage it. And otherwise, it's just going to be like the definition of insanity, right? It's continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, if you're tired, folks, of the same result, but you keep doing the same old things because you don't know any better, then what do you got to lose? You've got to come check this out.
Yeah.
All right,
it's
folks.
Like that giant elephant in the room.
Yeah, the purple one. Yeah. Folks, you can find all of the show notes for everything we talked about over at changeyourpov.com/episode 158. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. You are not going to want to miss it. Come be a part of our community over at Change Your POV Squad Facebook group. All right, folks, until next time.